I'm 87 years old, and the night my daughter tried to warn me was the night I realized something most men learn too late. You don't get killed by strangers, you get killed by people you trust. It started like any normal evening, quiet, routine, the kind of night you don't remember, until it becomes the last normal one you ever had. I had just dropped my wife at the airport. She smiled, kissed my cheek, told me not to wait up. Long conference, she said, simple, believable. I watched her walk inside, like I had done 100 times before, and I believed her. That was my first mistake. On the drive back, my daughter sat in the back seat, quiet, too quiet. At first I didn't think much of it. Kids have moods. But then I looked in the mirror, and I saw her face. Not sadness, not anger, fear, the kind of fear you don't fake. "Dad," she whispered. Her voice was shaking. "We shouldn't go home." I almost laughed. "What do you mean?" But she didn't answer right away. She moved forward, grabbed my shoulder, tight. "Please, don't go home." Now something felt off, not strange, wrong. "Tell me what happened." She hesitated, like she was choosing between two things, telling the truth or staying safe. Then she said it. "She's not on a flight." My grip tightened on the steering wheel. "You saw her go inside." "I heard her." That stopped me. Heard, not saw, heard. "Where?" "In the bathroom this morning." Her voice dropped even lower. She was on the phone. And then everything changed. She said, "Tonight is the last night." Silence, not outside, inside me, the kind of silence before something breaks. She said the poison is ready. My heart didn't race. It slowed. Because when truth hits that hard, you don't panic. You go cold. Let me ask you something. What would you do if your own daughter told you your wife was planning to kill you? Would you react? Would you scream? Would you rush home? I didn't. Because in that moment, I understood something important. Emotion gets you killed. Calm and keeps you alive. Who was she talking to? I asked. My voice didn't shake. That mattered, because fear spreads fast, and my daughter was already terrified. She called him H. There was only one H in my life, my son-in-law, the man who sat at my table, the man who called me dad, the man I trusted. That's when it all started making sense. The dizziness, the weakness, the nights I felt like my body was shutting down. I thought it was age. It wasn't. It was preparation, slow, careful, planned. I pulled the car to the side of the road. Hazard lights blinking. Tick, 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 like a countdown. "Tell me everything," I said. She did. Every word, every detail, every sentence she wasn't supposed to hear. And when she finished, I didn't react. Not because I didn't care, but because I did. Because I had one job now: survive. Not fight, not confront. Survive. Let me ask you something. What's the first mistake people make when they discover betrayal? They react immediately. They confront, they expose, they explode. And in doing that, they give the enemy time to adjust. I wasn't going to do that. So instead of turning back, instead of calling the police, I did something else. I drove past my house and parked across the street. Lights off, engine off, silence. "Stay down," I told her. "Don't move." We waited. Minutes passed. Then headlights appeared. A black SUV? It didn't pull into the driveway. It stopped at the curb. That told me everything. They weren't visiting. They were hiding. The passenger door opened. My wife stepped out. Same dress, same face, same woman who kissed me goodbye 20 minutes ago. No luggage, no flight, just lies. Then the driver stepped out, my son-in-law, and right there, under the streetlight, they kissed. Not guilt, not hesitation, confidence. That's when I knew this wasn't emotional. This was calculated. They weren't afraid, because they thought I was already dying. Let me ask you something. What do you do when you see the people you trust most turn into strangers in front of you? Do you attack? Or do you think, I chose to think because anger is fast, but strategy wins? They walked into my house, like they owned it, like I was already gone. And for a moment, I felt it, that urge to end it right there, to walk in, to make them regret everything. But then I looked at my daughter, shaking, crying, watching her world collapse. And I understood something even more important. Revenge can wait. Survival can't. If I died that night, she dies next. Witnesses don't live long. So I made the hardest decision of my life. I started the car and drove away. Not as a victim, not as a broken man, but as someone who just learned the truth. And truth is power. Because they thought I was weak, old, easy to eliminate. They were wrong. Very wrong. Because they made one mistake. A quiet man who knows the truth is the most dangerous kind. And that night, I stopped being their target I became something else, something they never saw coming. I didn't look back, not at the house, not at the lights, not at the life I had just left behind. Because once you accept the truth, there's no going back to what it was. There's only one question left. Do you survive or do you react? Most people react. They call, they confront, they demand answers. And that's exactly how they die. I drove into the dark, my daughter silent in the back seat. She didn't ask questions. She didn't need to. Children understand fear faster than adults. Where are we going? She finally whispered. I didn't answer right away. Because the truth was, I didn't know yet, but I knew one thing. Then not home. Home was no longer safe. Home was a trap. Let me ask you something. What do you do when the place you trust the most becomes the place designed to kill you? You disappear. Not dramatically, quietly. I kept driving, past familiar roads, past places I had known for decades. And none of them felt real anymore, because once trust breaks, everything changes. Then I made a decision. Not emotional, strategic. I pulled into a hotel, not just any hotel. The kind of place people don't ask questions. The kind of place where money replaces identity. The valet looked at my old truck, then at me, and almost waved me away, until I handed him the card. A black card, no numbers. Just a name, mine. His expression changed instantly. Respect, fear, recognition. Because here's something they didn't know. I wasn't just an old mechanic. That's what I let people believe. That's what I chose. But before that, I built something much bigger, and I never really let it go. You see, weak doesn't mean helpless. Quiet doesn't mean powerless. And old doesn't mean finished. We checked in, top floor, private, secure. I carried my daughter inside. She was exhausted, not from the night, but from the truth. I laid her on the bed. She fell asleep almost instantly. That's what fear does to a child. It drains everything. I stood there for a moment, watching her breathe, and I made a promise, not out loud, but clear enough. No one touches her. Not them, not anyone. Then I walked into the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. And for the first time, I saw it, not just in my face, in my body. Weakness, the poison. It was real. It had been working, slowly, carefully, exactly as planned. Let me ask you something. How many times do we ignore signs just because they're convenient to ignore? The dizziness, the fatigue, the strange feeling in your chest. You call it age. You call it stress. You call it anything except what it actually is. I reached into my jacket and pulled out something I hadn't used in years. A phone. Not a normal one. A satellite line. Secure, private, the kind you don't use unless it matters. I dialed one number. It rang once. Status. No greeting. No emotion. Good. I need you. Silence. Then, where? I gave the location. Then I said the part. I hadn't said out loud yet. I've been poisoned. A pause. Then the voice changed. Who? I'll explain when you get here. I hung up. No more words needed. Because some people, you don't need to explain everything to. They understand. 30 minutes later, there was a knock. He didn't come through the front. He never does. He came through the service entrance. My old friend, a doctor, but not the kind you find in hospitals. The kind who fixes problems without asking questions. He looked at me once and didn't waste time. Machines, tests, blood samples. Fast, efficient, silent. The room filled with the sound of equipment working. And then the result came. He looked at it, then looked at me. Arsenic. Simple word, heavy meaning, slow exposure, weeks, maybe months. I nodded, because now it all made sense. The milk. Every night, same time, same smile. Drink this, it's good for your heart. I drank it every time. Thanked her for it every time. Let me ask you something. What does betrayal feel like? When you realize it wasn't sudden, it was repeated every single day? That's when it hits deeper. Not anger, not immediately. Something colder, more controlled. Because now, this isn't emotion. This is strategy. My friend looked at me seriously. You need a hospital. No. He frowned. This is serious. I know. If you don't treat this properly, I said no. He stopped, because he saw it in my eyes. This wasn't fear. This was calculation. If I go to a hospital, they'll know I'm alive. Silence. And if they know that, they'll change the plan. He understood. Finally. So what do you want? I leaned back. Slowly, carefully. Treat me here. Quietly. And don't let anyone know. He hesitated, then nodded. because now he understood something else. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was war, and war is not fought loudly. It's fought carefully, step by step, move by move. That night, while they celebrated, while they thought I was dying, I was doing something else. Recovering, planning, becoming something they didn't expect, because they thought the game was over. They thought they had already won, but they forgot one thing. The man they tried to kill was still alive. And now, he knew the truth. By morning, they thought I was dead. That was the first advantage. Never correct your enemy when they believe something that protects you. I didn't rush anything. Not the treatment, not the plan, because revenge built in anger falls apart in execution. But revenge built in silence lasts. Let me ask you something. If someone tried to kill you slowly, day by day, would you want a quick reaction or a complete ending? I chose the second, not because I wanted pain, because I wanted certainty. My friend stabilized me, not fully healed, but alive, clear-headed. That's all I needed, because this wasn't about strength anymore. It was about precision. I sat alone in that quiet room and replayed everything, every moment, every detail, the milk, the timing, the pattern. It wasn't random. It was disciplined, which meant one thing: they had planned this for a long time. Let that sink in. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a decision, repeated every single night, and that changes how you respond. Because you're not dealing with emotion anymore. You're dealing with intent, and intent requires strategy. So I asked myself one question. What do they want? Money? Yes. Control? Yes. Freedom? Definitely. And the only thing standing in their way was me. So if I remove myself, they win. But if I stay invisible, I control everything. That's when the plan started forming. Not dramatic, not rushed, step by step. First move, I disappeared officially. No calls, no messages, no activity. To the outside world, I was exactly what they expected. Gone. Let me ask you something. What's more dangerous than a man seeking revenge? A man you don't know is alive. Because now, every move they make happens in the open. No caution, no fear. Just confidence. And confidence creates mistakes. Second move, I watched. Quietly, not directly. Indirectly. Bank activity, property movement, conversations. You'd be surprised how much people reveal when they think no one is watching. Within days, the pattern became clear. They weren't just waiting for me to die. They were preparing for it. Paperwork, transfers, access. Everything was already in motion. Which means if I had stayed, I would have been dead within weeks, maybe days. Let me ask you something. How close have you ever been to something you didn't even know was killing you? That thought stayed with me, not as fear, as clarity, because now there was no doubt left. And doubt is the only thing that slows a man down. Third move, I protected what mattered. My daughter, she stayed hidden, safe, away from everything. Because in situations like this, the mistake people make is focusing on revenge before securing what matters most. And that's how they lose everything. I wasn't gonna make that mistake. She comes first, always, then everything else. Now the final question, how do you end something like this? Do you expose them? Call the police? Create a scene? No, because that gives them a chance to lie, to twist, to escape. And people like that, they survive in chaos. So you don't create chaos, you create control. I waited, days passed, then weeks. My strength came back slowly, not fully, but enough. And then they made their first mistake. They rushed. Money moved too early, too fast. That's what greed does. It accelerates the plan before it's safe. And that gave me everything I needed. Proof, timing, leverage. That's when I made my move. Not loud, not emotional, precise. Everything hit at once. Accounts frozen, legal flags triggered, external attention activated. No warning, no preparation, just impact. And suddenly, the world they built quietly collapsed instantly. Let me ask you something. What happens when people who rely on control lose it completely? They panic, and panic reveals everything. Calls were made, mistakes happened, voices were raised, and every move was recorded, documented. Final. I didn't need to confront them. I didn't need to raise my voice because the truth handled everything clean, silent, unavoidable. And when it was over, I didn't feel what you might expect. No satisfaction, no relief, just stillness. Because revenge doesn't give you peace, it gives you closure. And sometimes, that's enough. They thought I was weak. An old mechanic. Easy to remove. But they forgot something important. Weak doesn't mean helpless. Quiet doesn't mean blind. And age doesn't mean finished. I survived. Not because I was stronger, but because I stayed calm when it mattered most. Because in the end, the most dangerous man isn't the loud one. It's the one who listens, understands, and waits. And if there's one thing I've learned at 87, it's this: never underestimate a quiet man, especially when he knows the truth.